Yo, 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 High Value Basketball, back once again, best basketball commentary on this side of the planet. Yo, we continuing on with our Under Pressure series, superstars who were under the most pressure coming into 2023-2024 season. Shout out to Clutch Points on Twitter for the article, and we're going to break this thing down. The last video we did was Anthony Davis, so I'm going to move on to another player, another big name, Mr. Jah Morant. We got to keep it real, y'all. Jah's under pressure, fam. You know, the media cycles then silenced the whole narrative going on. You know, they had that whole thing running during the playoffs about what's going to happen. Is he going to play? How long is it going to be? Then he finally got his suspension and everybody's like, oh, yeah, that was pretty good. Oh, no, that wasn't long enough. Oh, they should ban his ass. Like, people was all over the place about the Jah Morant situation. And of course, Jah Morant did not help himself or do himself any favors with the way he was acting and carrying on about this whole thing. I mean, I ain't never seen nothing so ridiculously immature and ridiculously odd and weird. My entire sports fandom, maybe with some football players doing some crazy stuff, but as far as basketball players, just as far as just the consistent goofy part of it, like, you know, we've had Ron Artest, but Ron Artest literally had, you know, mental issues and had to go to counseling and had to change his name and change his religion and stuff like that. Like, he's, you know, he had to go through some stuff to change himself. Freaking, you know, we've had Rasheed Wallace, you know, going at it with the refs, but then we found out the conspiracy theories, you know, that these refs are really trying to, change the outcome of games. You know, we've had, you know, handful of players. You know, we've had Latrell Sprewell sit there choke his coach out, but, you know, he got kicked out of the league for it. It wasn't this back and forth thing. We've had immature players come and go in the league, but this Jah Morant situation is just weird because it's not something directly related to on the court. It's off the court, social media, fake identity, bad influence, retardation. Like, what are you doing, fool? Like, just the sheer amount of, come on, my guy, why? Like, you that shook? And for anybody who's ever gone back and you know, not say investigated, but looked into it and just watched a montage of Jah Morant gun stuff, this stuff was bigger than, you know, the couple of instances of him waving the guns around on the social media. The dude's always blicking guns on the court at other players, flicking the two fingers and stuff. Like, what? Like, why do you have this as a personality trait? Like, why is this a part of your integral daily identity, flicking guns, bro? Like, you a basketball player, my guy, from the suburbs. Like, what? That's why it was so freaking weird. So because of all of this weirdness, he's put himself in a peculiar situation because he's taken himself away from the team. He's messed up the continuity of the Grizzlies. You know, he's messed up the flow in their progression. You know, he's put a lot of bad, weird energy out there in the locker room. He's clearly showed that he's immature. And anybody who knows sports at a high level, you are not a leader and you are not going to perform well if you're immature. It's just not finna happen. If you have an immature mindset, you can't be a leader of men. And being a leader of men is something that does not get talked about so much in basketball. They talk about it more in football because, again, it's a, you know, much more brutal, much more aggressive, much bigger locker room. So that has to take precedent. But that same thing that's needed in football is needed in basketball too. And I would say just as much or even more because it's a more close-knit situation. You know, you got 13, 14 guys that you're, you know, intimately working with and, you know, for that whole season. So you have to have good relationships. You have to have good camaraderie. You have to stand up and be legit, because anyone who does know basketball knows that the aura and the energy and the emotion of the team, they take on the emotion and the image and the fortitude or lack thereof of the lead player. They take on that lead player's identity. It happens every time. It's inevitable. It's how human beings are. It's even outside of sports. So if you got a team leader who is, you know, solely dedicated on winning, solely wants to get things done, you know, is super good in clutch pressure situations, super good at raising the bar and raising intensity and raising focus, a lot of the teammates on that same team subsequently do the same thing. They buy in, whether intentionally or intentionally. And that same thing happens on the other end. If the leader's immature, if the leader can't get it done, if the leader doesn't have faith in themselves, neither will the teammates, and the whole team will collapse. So what we're seeing here with an under pressure situation for Jah is he going to actually mature at some level? Because he's going to have to. If he wants to continue to be a star, if he wants to continue on, this trek that he's been on of being an elite NBA player, with this, wanting to be an elite competitor, because he's clearly got the attitude for him and all of this. He can't guard me. I'm the man. I'm Black Jesus. All this crap he be screaming about. He clearly wants, that crown placed on him, and he's willing to play for it, as we have seen. The question will be, and the pressure will be for him, can he actually act like a mature freaking adult? Can he actually do that? And in doing so, can he lead his team to victory? Dude is under a lot of pressure, because if he acts up some more, fam, it's going to bring even more disgrace. He may not ever lose, any more playing time or stuff like that. But as far as his personal gain, he's going to lose all these contracts. He's going to lose all this big money. He's going to lose all of the accoutrements of being a star, because he wants to be one, apparently, as the way that he carries on. And then as well, if he does carry that on, will NBA teams, or specifically the Grizzlies, will they keep faith in him? Or will they just write him off because he's a knucklehead and try to just start and try to ship him out and get him on another team? Kind of like, and of course, Jah's a much worse example of this, but kind of like what happened with Allen Iverson, let's just keep it real. That's what happened with AI. He produced that thug image into the NBA, and I don't mean thug on some Republican code word stuff. We are hip hop. He brought that hip hop image into the NBA, that hip hop lifestyle. And of course, Philadelphia put up with it because, again, who else were they going to have? But because he had that lifestyle, he didn't give himself a chip. He got himself an impact on the culture, but he never got himself a chip. And again, fam, I'm keeping it on the base level of why we play. We play to win the game, not just to entertain. And so let's see what Jah's here for, yo. Is he here to win the game of basketball? Is he here to win the game of life? Or is he here to ride out on this fame and this money that he already got? And we're going to see, because the pressure's on him. And lastly, the pressure's on him because he's only going to be able to do it in a reduced amount of time this season. With them 25 games gone, yeah, he might be rested, but he's also going to have to be a flash in the pan, getting everything back together, reorganizing that team, getting them back into the flow, and seeing if they could even get into the playoffs, depending on where their standing might be, and make a legitimate playoff run. He's under pressure, yo. If he does all of those things, though, if he shows up after 25 games, organizes or reorganizes the team, if he elevates the level of play of the team, elevates their record if it's in the dweller, gets them into the playoff and make a run, pressure's off. But we watching, fam. How about you, basketball? Peace.